Now, in the next big stage of the history of Islamic history of India, post Aurangzeb, is a guy called Bahadur Shah Zafar, the so-called last Mughal ruler. A lot of historians, even well-meaning historians, they look at him as some kind of a tragic hero. He was anything but a tragic hero.
A lot of romanticization has
Lot of
happened.
romanticization because they are lured by his tasteful poetry and his love for this finer things and so-called finer things in life. Basically, he was a decadent guy. All right. So, I mean, it is well known that Bahadur Shah Zafar's authority did not extend beyond the walls of the Red Fort. Guess his entire family, the number, the total number of his entire family, staff, servants, everybody living within the Red Fort, 2,000 people.
2000.
2,000 people, all of them, that whole thing. Essentially, Bahadur Shah Zafar, his life, his lifestyle, his authority, his whatever, was maintained by the pensions given to him by the East India Company.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
This was the last great Mughal king of India. He's also celebrated as a leader of the first war of Indian independence, 1857. So that is why his name becomes important because of that, because of 1857. Okay. Let's look at some of his characteristic features, some of the main features. There's a very famous couplet that he has written. My Urdu is not so good, but let's see, how it goes. गाजियों में बू रहेगी जब तक ईमान की तख्त लंदन तक चलेगी तेग हिंदुस्तान की. Meaning, as long as there remains the scent of Iman in the hearts of our Ghazis, so long shall the sword of Hindustan flash before the throne of London. Very heroic, no?
Yeah.
Except that it wasn't. It was just a couplet. Okay? Now, it is like a hijra writing erotic poetry and, going on his first night. So, this is a level of delusion. So, Bahadur Shah Zafar was endowed with cosmic levels of delusions to compose a couplet like this, after being comprehensively crushed and reduced to the status of a pensioner by the East India Company. It takes some gall to do this.
Cosmic levels of delusion.
Yeah. But he was a granddaddy of all delusions, who led even the fragments of the Mughal Empire to extinction. Okay. He led it through extinction through a potent mix of servility, vice, verse, wine, and wantonness. Okay. Now, notable among the Himalayan delusions that Bahadur Shah harbored is a bizarre self-belief that he had. And this bizarre self-belief is criticized by none other than Syed Ahmad Khan. Okay, this is what he says about Zafar. Quote, Bahadur Shah Zafar had a fixed idea that he could transform himself into a fly or a gnat, and that he could, in this disguise, travel himself to other countries and learn what was going on there. Seriously, he firmly believed that he possessed this power of transformation. This is what a guy like Syed Ahmad Khan writes about.
This is the
Zafar.
cosmic level of delusion.
Delusion. Okay. And there is a very interesting compilation, essentially a series of diaries maintained by a British colonial resident stationed inside Bahadur Shah Zafar's Red Fort. So he maintained a regular diary, noting the daily observations of the life that he saw around inside the Red Fort. Okay. The British had put him there to keep a watch on that. So it was compiled into a document, into a book titled Précis of Palace Intelligence. And this resident was inside Zafar's Red Fort from the years 1851 to 54. 4 years. Okay. Now, I'll just so hilarious. So I'll just summarize the observations, all right, of this Précis of Palace Intelligence. So one of the conclusions of this British resident was that Bahadur Shah Zafar was still basking in the illusion that his Mughal house, the house of the Mughals, still commanded the same prestige as it had done before during the time of even Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. And Zafar fed the delusion with the same British pension, spending it extravagantly, buying up jewelry, beautifying gardens, spending on all kinds of festivities, parties, and extravagant decadence. And when obviously the money, you spend like this, all the fortune of the world won't be enough for you. So each time the money would run out ahead of the next deposit of the British pension, so he borrowed copiously from private moneylenders
To maintain that false opulence.
to maintain that false opulence. So his self-created chimera of Mughal prestige, it was so incredibly pathetic that he once refused entry to the Nawab of Bawalpur unless he took off his pagdi. So that guy was a real Nawab. Okay?
No.
This guy was just a owner of a house, as simple as that. Except that the house was a fort, a red fort. So he said, you might be a Nawab, but I'm still a Mughal Badshah. So take off your pagdi. So this was a kind of his behavior. He was a true believer of delusions, and
For a
so
minute, you took a long pause between believer and delusions.
so and that man, the Nawab laughed at him, and he said, "Look, you have no power. You no longer command the authority to say something to me like this." And he just laughed his way out of the whole thing. And this grand red fort of Bahadur Shah Zafar was also the grand structural symbolism and reality of this physical reality of this delusion of grandeur. So this Prissy of Palace intelligence, uh, it offers extraordinary, first-hand details about the personal life of Bahadur Shah Zafar, his huge harem, his retinue of begums, his princes, meaning his sons, and the social and cultural life within the Red Fort, like I said, which housed 2,000 people. And he kept on running out of British pensions ahead of the next deposit, like I said. So the picture, I'll give you a summary of the picture that I've gathered from that document. We are treated to an orgy of ruin on epic scale. On the political front, we witness a doddering old nominal sultan who is in the amorous grip of his powerful begum. So this woman, she was extremely wild, and she borrowed on an even more lavish scale from private Hindu moneylenders.
So private Hindu
Yeah,
money.
yeah, yeah. Okay. And we also see his utter political, innervation in the manner in which that wazir from Lucknow fools him. We also see the Nawab of Awadh who flouts this token, Mughal Sultan's authority with impunity. He has no control over anybody. We also see how Bahadur Shah Zafar has become a willing pawn in the hands of his courtiers, and he is also a pawn, a puppet in the hands of a physician who wields real power. We also see how Zafar has completely devoted his life to the pursuit of pleasure and poetry via minute details of his daily routine. We see him wasting fabulous sums on weddings. We see his princess and other members of the royal family rivaling each other in maintaining concubines and slave girls. We notice how bootlegging, illicit liquor, had transformed into a thriving industry because this great man with no economy, he had banned wine drinking.
Sorry?
He had banned wine drinking, manufacture of wine,
Okay.
liquor. So we also see how the Red Fort economy was subsidized by British pension, which artificially kept the prices low. But like I said, Zafar's begums somehow managed to kept on notching up enormous amounts of debt. And there, finally, we see all the signs and symbols of an ensuing cataclysm. It is a small wonder that when this cataclysm actually ensued, Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last great Mughal, also turned out to be the last great traitor of the first war of Indian independence that occurred in 1857. Okay, I'll just read out the precise details of his treachery. Okay, now at that time, when what the British call as the Sepoy mutiny, right, when that broke out, people, especially in North India, North and Northwestern India, people were looking for leadership. So there was this token sultan, and they said, "Come, we need your leadership. At least go out on the field and lead us. We'll do the rest. We'll do the actual fighting. But
Lead us.
you're supposed to be the sultan, so lead us.
Lead from the front.
Lead from the front." So what happened was that this man had an aversion to everything that was heroic and valorous. So he
Sorry,
refused.
but your choice.
He refused, and things reached such a stage that the soldiers, matlab, what the British call as mutineers, so Indians, freedom fighters, they stormed right into the Red Fort, stormed into his palace, caught him by his beard, and began to hurl all kinds of obscenities against him, calling him "Abe, Budhe, Ajao, lead the fight from the front." Okay. Still, this man was so cowardly and shameless that he refused.
So,
These are things no textbooks will tell you.
the romanticization that we referred to a little while earlier, wasn't this fueled by that series that Nasruddin Shah acted as Bahadur Shah Zafar, Gulzar, and all that? I just
Okay. So
no, what you're saying, the facts have never been brought out in that sense. So that's why I was wondering where the
they won't know the whole point about Bahadur Shah Zafar. Sanitizing his this kind of cowardly record is part of secular agenda.
Okay.
And one of the great promoters, one of the vilest promoters, is still alive, William Dalrymple, the last Mughal or something. He wrote this book. Once all the sepoys, they had pretty much taken over the Red Fort, and they had cornered Bahadur Shah Zafar. Physical pressure also they put on him. So he finally conceded. It's not easy to face, be surrounded by 1,000, thousands of people, at least 1,000 people, and still not, and still say that you have courage and you will not give in to them. So finally, Bahadur Shah Zafar, he had to concede to lead the first war of Indian independence, owing to this kind of pressure. So that is how this title of Emperor of Hindustan was artificially bestowed on him by the sepoys. All right. So these reasons no books will tell you. Now, R.C. Majumdar, he describes this whole build-up beautifully, and his analysis is quite, I think it's a final word on this subject. Quote: "The sepoys were not perhaps solely to blame for this sorry state of things. The character and personality of Bahadur Shah Zafar were also partly responsible for it. He was advanced in age and almost a dotard, a plaything in the hands of his favorite Begum, Zeenat Mahal. He had no administrative experience nor knowledge of men and things. He spent his time composing verses in Urdu and took delight in such peaceful activities. He lacked military knowledge and personal bravery." Like I said, he had an aversion to all things heroic and valorous. Okay, but this doesn't stop here. Whereas the sepoys demanded a steely leadership, Bahadur Shah Zafar, he took the forced appointment. So they looked at some solid leadership. In turn, Zafar gave them the following pious advice. He said, "Ye sab moh maya hai. Leave this worldly life. It is cruel. It is wicked. It corrupts you. Leave this worldly life and adopt the life of the pious fakirs." So one British historian, I'll quote him, he says that Bahadur Shah assumed the responsibility of the position which had been forced upon him. It is more probable that the old man, left to himself, would have shrunk from the position. So even as Bahadur Shah maintained this facade of leading the fight against the British, he opened a secret parallel track with the same British. This is where the treachery story comes in. So on the side, he offered full support to the British so that they could crush the sepoys, the freedom fighters. This is what R.C. Majumdar says. Not only had Bahadur Shah had no confidence in the sepoys or sympathy for their cause, but even after he had joined with the sepoys, he maintained his loyalty to the British. They were giving him pensions. Remember?
They're funding his
They're funding his existence.
Very existence.
So, as part of the secret deal, Bahadur Shah Zafar sent out several letters to various British military officers, for example, to the Lieutenant Governor of Agra. In all these letters, he betrayed the location and other details of the sepoys in various places. And that powerful physician, remember?
Yeah.
He had the real control of the administration. His name is Hasanullah Khan. He also wrote similarly treacherous letters to the British. Okay. And once the 1857 war was crushed, and the British conducted the trial, and even Bahadur Shah Zafar's own testimony, they have enough and more corroborations of his own betrayal of his own people, his own countrymen, his own subjects, the sepoys. Okay, but one of his most macabre acts of this treachery occurred 1 month after the War of Independence officially broke out. So even as the sepoys were engaged in intense fighting with the British in and around Delhi, Meerut, all those places. It was a fight that they fought in Bahadur Shah Zafar's name. And this guy was busy betraying them, writing secret, treacherous correspondence.
Behind their back. Yeah.
So around that time, Zafar sent a secret message to a guy called General T. Reed, and another letter to another commander who headed the British unit, which had pretty much besieged Delhi. And in turn, T. Reed conveyed the following message to another military guy named John Lawrence, who was the chief commander of Punjab. So this letter reads as follows: one of our Gumasta meaning clerk, one of our Gumastas who was in Delhi brought a message from the king that if we would guarantee his life and pension, he would open the gates for us.
Life and pension.
ये है आपका monarch, emperor of India. Okay, and the name of this Gumasta was Fateh Muhammad, who made the following statement in the trial. Quote, the king was most desirous of making peaceful terms with the British, and if a formal promise was given to him that his pension of 1 lakh rupees a month and his former position should be secured to him, he would have the Darwaza basically, opened for the admission of British troops. So this Zardaroza was a private entrance into the palace, on the riverside, Yamuna riverside. The king also offered to arrange to have any other of the city gates open to the British at any time that they might wish,
as long as the price was paid.
As long as the price was paid. So when these correspondences were occurring, another parallel track happened. So this time, Bahadur Shah Zafar, he unleashed his favorite Begum. Remember, Zeenat Mahal. He unleashed her. So on August 19, 1857, the commissioner of Meerut, H. Greathead, he recorded in his diary, quote, I am beginning to get letters from the Begum and the princess declaring that they have been fondly attached to us and that they only want to know what favor they can do for us. Another entry in his diary dated August 23rd reads as follows. An emissary came out from Zeenat Mahal, the favorite wife of the king, offering to exercise her influence with the king to bring about some arrangement. I can keep on reading. I've written a long form on this one. So the conclusion is the same. And I'll quote R.C. Majumdar. He says, Bahadur Shah and his family betrayed the cause not only of the Sepoys, but also of the whole country. And as cynical as it might sound, the terms of Bahadur Shah Zafar's betrayal were rather cheap, even by the standards of that period. All right. So, but the British had enough of this guy, and they didn't want to spend more money. By their very nature, somebody very memorably described the British as a race of shopkeepers. So, very miserly kind of a people, especially East India Company, which would spare no opportunity to plunder and not give.
So for them to spend,
continue to spend this kind of thing on such a useless fellow, they had enough of Bahadur Shah Zafar, so they ruthlessly crushed the first war of Indian independence, and even before Bahadur Shah could carry out his betrayal and surrender to them, so they said, "Bahut ho gaya budhe, all your mischief is enough.
Your party ends.
Your party ends here." So they took him, they flung him into an obscure jail in Burma, where he spent his last days wallowing in misery and squalor. Died forgotten. But there is a sickening postscript to this great traitor named Bahadur Shah Zafar. It happened in recent history. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in 2012 visited Bahadur Shah Zafar's grave at Yangon and went on his knees and offered a fatiha or a prayer to this traitor. This is what India needs to recover from.
Yes.
That closes the story of Bahadur Shah Zafar.